Welcome to Friends. I'm Charlie Cruz. Today we're getting into the Gen Z AI backlash story, the booing at graduations, the Luddite reclamation, the supposed sabotage campaign. Is this generation actually turning its back on artificial intelligence, or is a real shift in mood getting inflated into a movement by people who have something to gain from that story? Let's get into it. There's a headline making the rounds right now that goes something like this. Gen Z, the generation that was supposed to be born ready for AI, is turning on it, booing AI cheerleaders at graduation, reviving the word Luddite like it's a badge of honor, sabotaging AI rollouts at their jobs. The story is that the kids who grew up with a phone in their hand have looked at the robot future and said, nah, we're good. And the label doing all the heavy lifting is Luddite. Suddenly it's not an insult, it's an identity. Young people using it to say, I'm not scared of technology, I'm principled, I'm resisting. So here's the actual question I want to test today. Is Gen Z genuinely leading some Luddite revolt against AI? Or is this a mood getting dressed up as a movement, sitting on top of the very inconvenient fact that most of them still use AI every single week? Because two very different groups are selling you two very different versions of this. Version 1 is the resistance story. Outlets have been running with Gen Z, is leading the charge against AI. And notice how that framing feels. It's flattering. If you're an anxious new grad staring at a job market that looks bombed out, being told you're not falling behind, you're taking a noble stand. That's a gift. You're not a laggard, you're a rebel with a history book. That framing gets clicks, it fuels generational conflict content, and it hands economic fear a dignified costume. Version 2 comes from the other direction. The AI executives, Palantir's Alex Karp telling people, essentially, you're effed. Anthropic's Dario Amodei warning AI could wipe out half of entry-level white-collar jobs. Investor David Friedberg flat out saying the idea that AI destroys jobs is a Luddite idea. For that crowd, Luddite is the insult version. It means ignorant, scared, doomed to lose, and their incentive could not be more direct. They sell AI. They need companies to buy it and workers to use it. Calling your hesitation Luddite is a sales tactic. Make resistance look dumb and adoption looks inevitable. And there's a third player worth flagging. That headline stat about workers sabotaging AI at their jobs? It comes from a report by an enterprise AI company, a firm whose entire business is making AI adoption go smoother. So a source that profits from managing resistance is also the source telling you how much resistance exists. Hold that thought. Now let's get into what actually holds up, because some of this is real and some of it is inflated. The strongest, best sourced piece is the sentiment shift. Gallup, a credible pollster, surveyed people roughly 14 to 29. Excitement about AI dropped from 36% to 22% in a year. Anger rose from 22% to 31%. That's a 9-point jump in anger. That's not vibes. That's a measured collapse in enthusiasm. One caveat, that 14 to 29 band blends teenagers with grown adults, so read it loosely. But directionally, it's solid. Young people got a lot less excited and a lot more mad. Here's the part that quietly wrecks the whole resistance narrative though. That same Gallup survey found 22% of that group use AI daily, 29% weekly. So over half of them are using it daily or weekly. Read that again. The anger and the usage live in the same people. They're mad at AI and typing into it the same afternoon. That's the single most important fact in this entire conversation. And it's the one the headlines skip. Now, the anger isn't irrational. The job fear has real signals under it. Entry-level job postings are down compared to last year and compared to before the pandemic. A Monster survey found 89% of this year's graduates fear their job could be taken by AI. And a global survey found 43% of CEOs plan to reduce junior roles. So even if the doomsday timelines are coming from the executives themselves, the fear is anchored to something measurable. The Luddite reclamation is more legit than you'd think too. Tech journalist Brian Merchant, who calls himself a Luddite and wrote on their history, points out the original Luddites were never anti-technology. They were skilled workers who destroyed machines that were being used to cut them out and slash their pay. Their question was, how is this going to impact us? So Gen Z using Luddite to mean AI skeptic with labor concerns is actually closer to the real history than the insult version the tech bros throw around. Though, to be fair, that's Merchant's argument, and the popular meaning of Luddite genuinely still is anti-tech. Both meanings are floating around. Now, the softer stuff. The sabotage report found 29% of employees overall and 44% of Gen Z admit to sabotaging AI rollouts. refusing tools, doing deliberately bad AI work, dumping company data into random public AI systems. It also says 77% of executives would be less likely to promote someone who avoids AI. But that's a single self-reported survey from an AI vendor. And sabotage bundles wildly different things together, quietly ignoring the difference between declining a mandate and actively leaking data. No independent replication. So, suggestive, not settled. Don't quote that 44% like it's gospel. The booing is real but anecdotal. During graduation season, students booed executives who praised AI. At Middle Tennessee State, the Big Machine Records CEO told grads, "You can hear me now or you can pay me later," and got booed. Real event, witnessed, but it's a handful of ceremonies, not a national behavior study. And here's a credible voice from outside the hype cycle. MIT's Andrew McAfee argues that automating entry-level jobs is self-defeating because those roles are where people actually learn the job. Remove the bottom rung and you break your own future talent pipeline. That's a structural critic, not a Gen Z activist, saying the automation push might backfire. Now, what the evidence does not support. It does not support Gen Z quits AI. Over half still use it weekly. There's no boycott. It also doesn't support movement. What's measured is shifting sentiment, plus scattered incidents, plus one vendor survey. That's a mood swing, not an organized movement with leaders and demands. And the generational gap angle is partly a headline trick, because an NBC poll found 46% of all registered voters view AI negatively. So souring on AI isn't uniquely a young person thing. Everybody's getting more skeptical. And those executive doom forecasts, half of entry-level jobs gone, you're effed. Those aren't neutral evidence. They're predictions from people selling the product or trying to move markets. Even the study showing an AI model can do most tasks in law or finance measures what it can do in a test, not jobs actually vanishing in the real economy. So here's where I land. Gen Z has not turned against AI. That's the clean headline, and it's wrong. What's real is a genuine crash in enthusiasm and a real spike in anger. And that anger is earned because the entry-level jobs they trained for are getting thinner. And the people insisting AI is inevitable are the exact same people cashing checks off it. The Luddite Revival isn't a revolt with a command center. It's a name for that anxiety. And the irony is real, because the original Luddites were precisely this, not scared of machines, angry at machines being used to cut them out. Both the sabotage story and the movement story are getting cranked up by people with skin in the game. Vendors on one side who profit from managing your resistance, boosters on the other who profit from erasing it. So the takeaway for you is simpler than the discourse. You can be furious about how AI is being deployed and still use the thing. That's not hypocrisy. That is literally the position most of your generation is holding right now, whether they'd say it out loud or not. The fight worth having was never tech versus no tech. It's who this tech actually serves. And anyone telling you resistance is stupid or that you've all quit is selling you the answer, not giving you one. Thanks for riding with me on this one. I'm Charlie Cruz. This is Friends, where we do the reading so you don't get played. See you next time.
Grab news. Thomas.